Hi, everybody. It's Hilary here from We Love Smart Keto. Great to have you join us on this live stream today. And today we're going to be talking about the core of keto, what's at the heart of keto. So give me a 1 if you're watching live today, or a 2 down below in the comments if you're watching on the restream. Give me a like so that I know that you're here. It'd be lovely to know that you're here. So as I said, today we're going to be talking about the core of keto, what's at keto's heart. What if we go back to the real basics and we're keeping it simple, what's at the real root of the base of keto, because we hear all sorts of fancy schmancy things around about, you need to have this, you need to have that, you need to have electrolytes, you need to have supplements, you need to have all sorts of things, you need to have exogenous ketones, whatever those are. I do know, but we're not going to go into those today. So how well do you know keto? We had a post earlier in the group about how well people knew keto, and we have people in this wonderful group from either, 1, know almost nothing, through to 10, know everything or that there is to know. So if you'd like to put in the comments, give me a 1. If you are just sort of starting out, you've heard about keto, you don't know a lot about it, give me a 1 in the comments. If you know a lot about it and you're a bit of an expert, give us a 10. I don't think we've had any 10s. We've had 9.5s. I certainly wouldn't count myself as a 10. While I've done a lot of training and a lot of studying in keto and a lot of practice in keto, I don't think there's anybody who knows everything that there is to know about keto. But if you're up there in terms of what you know about what keto is about and how to do it, then put yourself up there with, an 8 or a 9. Love to know, because we've got a whole range of expertise and experience in the group. So what's the core of keto? Well, Professor Tim Noakes, who's a world-renowned sports scientist and now a great promoter of the LCHF, so low carb healthy fat diet, or keto, which is a particularly low carb form of the LCHF. He describes it as the proper human diet. And who wouldn't like to be eating the proper human diet, for sure? So give me a hell yeah if you'd like to eat a proper human diet. Tell me yes in the comments if you want to learn exactly what that is. So let's have a chat about what the proper human diet is. Well, the proper human diet is what we used to eat before we had industrialized food systems across the planet. When we used to eat, much more unprocessed food, much closer to home in terms of what we ate. We ate food that was more available locally. It wasn't sort of, we didn't have global brands in the way that we have today. We don't, these days, wherever you go in the world, you can pretty much get the same food if it's all packaged, in a box or in a package that you open, like, crisps or chips or those sorts of or bars, those sorts of things. These days you can pretty much get the same thing wherever you go, whereas in the old times we couldn't. That didn't happen. And it's really only since the 1970s, when we've had when the American dietary guidelines were introduced, that we've really even been told what to eat. Before, you ate what you could, you ate what your parents ate, you ate what your peers ate, you ate what your community ate. And these days, every few years, those dietary guidelines get reviewed and we get told to eat something slightly different, or to increase this or decrease that. So, it's actually really only in very recent times that we've even been told what to eat. So we're really going back to a more traditional way, if you like, of eating. And, in previous times, there were very few overweight people. There were some, but not very many. There were very few people with chronic diseases. Type 2 diabetes was almost unheard of. And so it's really our environment, it's what we're putting in our mouths and the way that we're living that's really resulting in that. So what is the proper human diet? Well, first of all, in the old days, it was very rare to be able to have carbohydrate and fat at the same time. It was really only in the fall that many carbohydrates were available at all, with all the, you know, the fruits that would become available at that time. And when we really did farming, at that time when we have harvest, and we celebrate the harvest, don't we, every fall, really carbohydrates became available. And in nature, it's almost never the case that fats and carbohydrates are available in the same food. I can't think of a single food that is like a French fry that has fats and carbohydrates delivered in the same mouthful. It's only when we put them together that we get fats and carbohydrates together. So the proper human diet is really very low carbohydrate. We would eat it when we could get it because it was a supplement, and particularly in the fall when we knew we had the long lean winter coming, we would stock up on putting some extra body fat. But these days, for most people, thankfully, there's an abundance for food. Not for everybody, but for most people, there's an abundance of food, and we don't need to stock up. And so, the proper human diet is really fats and proteins together. So what is it that we are trying to achieve with the keto diet? What is the core of keto? Well, the core of keto is not to eat carbohydrates, to keep the carbohydrates as minimal as possible, in particular to eliminate sugar. So sugar is made of two molecules. It's a disaccharide. Di means two, saccharide means sugar, so it just means two sugars stuck together, and that is made of glucose and fructose. And fructose at high doses, high amounts of fructose, actually toxic for the liver. So not a great idea to overeat on fructose. And glucose at high levels where our body can't deal with it, and we won't go into all the metabolism issues today. We're just going to talk about the outcomes of it. At prolonged high doses of glucose, basically it's corrosive inside our body, just the same as in a fuel tank in a vehicle. If you put sugar in a diesel tank, it will ruin that engine. Similarly, over time, doesn't happen immediately, but over time, over a period of decades, couple of decades, say 20 years, it means that our glucose will, if we have sustained high levels of glucose in our bloodstream, it will actually, cause damage internally in our vessels, in our cells internally in our body. So first thing on keto is get rid of sugar. If you can't do that, if that's really challenging immediately, then you can take artificial sweeteners instead. So things like erythritol, stevia, monk fruit, perfectly fine on keto. So let me know if you're in the comments, if you're a artificial sweetener person, and what's your artificial sweetener of choice? What do you prefer to have? And I think you'll find over time with keto, if you're just starting out, you might have a bit more, but over time your cravings for sweet things decrease, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then the second thing on keto is no refined grains, so no pasta, no rice, no flour, no bread made with flour in any case, and to eliminate those things because they are polysaccharides. That means they've got lots of sugar cells all strung together, sugar molecules all strung together, and they just break down into glucose, fructose, galactose. So they're really no better than sugar. They just take a little bit longer to break down. So they don't give you the spike in glucose and the spike in insulin, but they still in a total load actually raise your blood sugar by the same amount, perhaps just a little bit flatter in terms of that peak. So we cut those out. So if we've cut those out, what happens? Well, if we've been eating carbohydrates for, all our lives, then, our body's system is adapted to eating carbohydrates. And then you get, a sugar plummet in your glucose, and your body goes, sugar, give me sugar. I need some carbohydrate. So, and that's a craving. And we've talked about cravings in other streams, so I'm not going to go into great details about that. So the real fundamental core of keto here then is, what do we replace that carbohydrate with? Well, we replace it predominantly with fat, and not just any kind of fat. And what's main purpose of fat here? Well, we need protein, as we know. The reason we need protein is we need it for repair of our cells, so our bones and our muscles and our organ tissue. Over time that degrades, and we have to repair it, and so we need to replace it with the structural items that we need, and principally amino acids, which is what protein is made of. And where do we get those from? We get them from protein, predominantly from meat. You can also get it from pulses as well if you're a vegetarian. We also get it from eggs, which is a fantastic source, and also from things like cheese and yogurt, great sources as well. Sources, not great sources, but sources as well. There are some proteins in cheese, although they're predominantly fat. So fish, meat, eggs, pulses, principal places that we get proteins from. So what's the fat doing there? Well, the fat predominantly is there to curb our appetite. It makes us feel full. Protein will also make us feel full, and it's the fats, that a lot of protein has fat incorporated. Food that we eat has fats incorporated in it, and so together they will help us feel full. But we can't eat too much protein, because at high levels, if we eat too much protein, it's not good for our bodies. And also some of that protein can be converted to sugar in the liver as well, although that's not such an enormous problem, but it's something just to be mindful of. So the fat is really there to suppress our appetite, to stop those cravings, keep us from getting hungry. So that at its core, fundamentally, is that the keto diet is enough protein to be able to give us all the micronutrients that we need, all the vitamins that we need, all the salts and metals and things that we need in our body, to iron and things like that we need within our body, but not too much. It's kind of in moderation. And then the fat is there to make up the balance and give us the energy that we need, and also to keep our appetite down. Because if we do need to lose weight, if we're aiming to get down to our ideal body size, then we do need to eat fewer calories than what we're going to burn. It is still a calories in expenditure kind of equation, but it's not the I need to count my calories. We don't count calories. Calories count, but we don't count them. What we're predominantly doing is trying to make sure that we as humans are not hungry and not craving, so that you find you can go for a longer period of time without eating. You don't need to snack. Gives your body a chance to rest and recuperate. So moderate protein and then healthy fats. We often hear the LCHF, so low carb H fats diet, and I've deliberately said H fats. It's often described as the low carbohydrate, high fat diet. And I'm just here to say that actually the amongst all the researchers and the scientists and the doctors, that's actually changing that description. It's actually not low carb, high fat anymore. I wonder if you can guess what it is. Yep, it's low carb, healthy fat, because the type of fat we eat matters also. So if you eat industrial seed oil, so if you eat canola oil, vegetable oil, sunflower oil, that's actually highly processed. It goes through about 6 steps to make it. They use solvents. It's sort of an industrial process. It's not easy to get the oil out of those seeds. And so, that is not good for our bodies to eat industrialized food. We need to, and as I've talked about many times, we need to eat food that's as close to the source as possible. So what sorts of fats are healthy fats? Well, animal fats are healthy. So saturated fats that are in animal fats are not the terrible fats that people have said that they are. They're perfectly fine. Fat that comes in oily fish, so mackerel, sardines, salmon, trout, for example, very, very good source of fat. Coconut oil, if you like it. Olive oil is as unprocessed as possible, so extra virgin olive oil. Because once it's been pressed a number of times, it's a bit more processed. Avocados and avocado oil, very good sources of healthy fats. Cheese, which I said like before has protein, it has a little bit of protein, but predominantly fats in it. Also a very good source. Not milk, because milk has quite a high sugar concentration. Cream, also a good source. So healthy fats, not high fats. And why not high fats? Well, if you overeat fat on a keto diet and you don't have a deficit, your body goes, sure, I've got plenty of fat running around in my bloodstream from the fats that Hillary, for example, has eaten, or you've eaten, or I've eaten, in our bodies, and so I don't need to go and get from my fat stores. And so what we're still always trying to do is encourage, if we're trying to lose weight, to have a deficit so that our body will go, oh, I better go and get from the store. I'm going to go and get from the fat stores and burn that because there's nothing else to burn. So in order to do that, we need to have a deficit of overall of how much we're eating, but we need to have enough fat to keep our appetite down, so that we don't go and eat something that we is not in our plan. And similarly, what we want to do is keep our sugars down, because if our insulin is high, because insulin will react to sugars in our blood, then insulin is basically a lock on our fat stores. So if we've got high insulin, the fat can't come out of our fat stores, even if we have a calorie deficit in our body, even if our body needs to go and get from the fat stores. If the insulin is high, it can't come out. So we want to keep our insulin low by not eating carbohydrates. And we want to eat just enough fats, healthy fats, in order to be able to keep, to enable the fat to come out of the fat stores. So I hope I've explained that reasonably well. It's perhaps a little bit complex, but I'd be really interested to know if you've had an interesting insight from what we've talked about. What have you learned about keto for today that perhaps you didn't know before? Did you know the difference between high fat and healthy fat that we're talking about? Did you know about keeping your insulin low? Tell me what insight. Tell me if you think there's something I've missed. It's a big topic, and I want to make sure that we cover it in bite-sized chunks for you. So at the core of keto is basically that we need to eat protein for structure. We need to eat just enough protein, to be able to repair and replace what our body needs in our muscles and our bones and our organs and our skin. So we need to eat just enough protein for that. Then we need to eat enough healthy fats to keep our appetite down, so that we don't get cravings, and that we can, to be occasionally a bit hungry is fine, but not that intense craving that you can get if you're a sugar fiend. And then we need to eat as few carbohydrates as possible, and definitely not the refined kind. So we need to eat shoots and leaves, and stems, so the things that are above the ground, not the roots, and not high sugar berries, not high sugar fruits, sorry. So things like berries are occasionally, not every day, but occasionally are okay. But things like, pineapples and melons and things, cherries, really too high in sugar for keto. So I hope that's been really helpful for you. I know we've got the winner this week to do. I'm not sure, we haven't done the calculation for that, the working out who that is. It will be a newbie this week. So, somebody who's put an interesting post or a nice response to somebody else's post, that will be who wins this week, because we just wanted to change it up a little bit. So I hope you found this really helpful and useful. We've had some really interesting comments in the group and some good questions. And I just really noticed that we had, some people in the group that said that they didn't really know a lot about keto. So I really wanted to come in today and talk about the core of keto. So any questions you have, please let us know. And we'd love to see you in our group, and love to answer all your questions. Love to see all of your progress. So wonderful. And we'll see you soon in the group. Bye.